speaking of perspective, I want to loop this all the way back around to what you said about your own experience of just buying cars, and that you're like, I've done this. I know what it feels like. And the idea of feeling and emotions in a buying journey. One of the other articles that you wrote in the series, volume 7, digital customer experiences. You write, quote, if I were a bank CEO, I'd make sure my team is well versed and oriented around digital customer experiences. I'd want them to understand the power of first impressions and how we evaluate ours. And the reason I'm wanting to surface this is because when we talk about experiences, that connects back to this point of the internet sales or manager. Um, I look at experiences as well-defined systems and processes that have been strategically thought out, mapped out, applied, and then the opportunity is continuously optimize over time. It's the optimization. And
I
you
wish that were true. Like, I look at it as like we're going to have an experience whether it's designed or not.
sure.
Let's be honest, right? And so I like that seems aspirational for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure everything is always as conscious as what you described.
I think it's the consciousness or lack of consciousness coming back to act awareness, particularly when it comes to optimization. It's that last step. I see a lot of, yeah, we'll think about this, we'll apply it, and then we're going to move on. Check. We're going to move to the next thing, never coming back to how can we make what we've done even that much better. So we're starting to connect some dots here. You use a framework in this particular article, the 3 C's. And I liked how you framed this around an SMB case: competence, content, and contact. As we start to wrap up here, can you just briefly go through what these 3 C's are and where the opportunities are to provide or to showcase expertise with confident or competence, which would then increase the confidence of a prospective account holder? That then leads to the content to meet their needs, and then ultimately the contact to ensure easy access. Break that down, and because it is a framework that can lead to a positive experience.
Sure. Well, and I mean, you kind of set me up too, because so much of this, and it'll be fascinating to see how the adoption of generative AI tools potentially change this,
Mm.
and in how companies or brands can express themselves. But if you think about the Google search world that we've been in for quite a while, the Google search, the search result page is a fairly democratized experience. A
Mhm.
lot of text. They constantly are playing with it, but it's historically been a very democratized experience. And I click on a link, and I'm going to have a very fast impression, and it's going to somewhere on a continuum from really exciting and interesting competence. They look like they're going to be really good at what I think the terms on the prior page told me they were going to do. Or if especially in today's age, if I get something that feels starkly misaligned to that, a website that feels 10 years old or 20 years old, I'm going to make judgments, whether I'm conscious about it or not, about that,
Yeah.
right? And so competence is a somewhat complicated idea, but I'm going to make a judgment. And so being aware of how do we promote that, and I think you obviously have had some history with this too. Of if I say something on a Google result page and I don't reinforce that on the next step,
Hmm.
I can create the kind of cognitive dissonance that people hit the back button on.
Yeah.
Or I have a really old website, I'll hit the back button. It's been so easy to shift now to consider other options that you need to be really intentional about that first step. And that, so to me, that's competence, showing you understand that, and encourage people to continue on that journey
Mm.
with you, and give me another minute to keep building the case. And so to me, if I can get through that first gate, now I can start trying to really address your needs. And that's where I say I use content as just a simple way to say it. Like, now I can start explaining how we understand you, or how we have served other people like you, or really try to start to connect those dots of how we might be a good option or solution to your need or problem. And that's content. And then ultimately, to me, contact is if I've earned the right to engage with you, can you make it as easy as possible to allow that person to engage in
Yeah.
whatever way that may be and give them the choice or the preference that they want, not, hey, we think we've made a good case. The only option if you want to do business with us is come into the branch.
Right.
And that's just in a digital world that forcing people offline for banking just isn't a likely good conversion option. For a restaurant where the story is the experience in person at the restaurant,
Sure.
yeah, that probably makes sense. But I'm not sure banks have found that equivalent. The experience in person is so enriching that I'll do that as my first step.
One of the questions I always like asking financial brand leaders is, it's a little bit of a trick question, but it's to meet them where they are.
Sure.
Where does a financial buying journey begin? And I'll get answers: Google, an ad, a referral. And I go, those are all great answers, but a buying journey really begins in the mind of a prospective account holder. And there are
Mhm.
three levels. You have the reptilian part of the mind, which is fight or flight, friend or foe. I call that the binary brain, basically. Can I trust you?
Mhm.
And back to your point, it's like these decisions are being made in microseconds. So that's a one or a zero. It's binary. It's like I do trust you or I don't trust you.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, I think I can trust you. Let's move to the next level. Okay. Then we're moving into the emotive part of the mind, the amygdala. How do you make me feel? You make me, I feel safe, I feel good.
Mhm.
Then we can get to the last part, which is more of the higher order thinking, the neocortex. Now we can ask the question or answer the question from the mind of a prospective account holder: how can you help me? And so all three of those different points are happening really just in rapid fire time. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of chemicals that are firing off too, in the mind. We're right here coming up on the top of our time together. You mentioned generative AI, and I'm curious on this because I have a hypothesis that as we move further into the age of AI and we see an influx of Gen AI, particularly around content, my hypothesis in complex buying journeys like financial services, there's an opportunity to unlock, capture, and amplify the expertise through
Mhm.
human centric content, lenders, leaders, advisors, through digital channels, i.e., social media, on the web page, etc. Because even in the age of AI, there's some human psychology that we can't forget. People trust people. People do business with people. Yes, we can go down the rabbit hole of deep fake and whatnot. Not going to go there
Mhm.
right now, but I'm thinking through the context of banking. What must we? What? I'm getting tongue tied. What must we be mindful of when it comes to ensuring that we do still have a human experience? And maybe the human experience could be a differentiation point. It's just the way that we deliver that human experience. It might not be through the branch, but we're still communicating that through human centric expertise.
I totally agree. And I think it's about how do you describe and define that expertise that's going to be critically important, because I may now rely on an AI to say, this is my perceived need. I'm a business owner of this type, and I think I need an expert, not just in commercial lending, but a commercial lender in my industry that
Mhm.
understands the business dynamics, how to best price and optimize a loan term rate, and even other elements of it for me. And I would then rely on the AI to go out and comb the world that Google may not be able to do in the same way. And so
Right.
I can direct it more specifically and differently to go collect information and come back to me in a way where I may never need to go to those sites,
Sure.
but the sites still need to present that information so that the human can consume it. So I think it will be very much still, I want to work with people, but how I get presented information from them will be the really interesting exploration of this next era in my mind. And
Yes.
so how I tend to talk to banks about this is this term I use called redefining community, that they should be going through this exercise and saying, we've historically been a community bank in a geographic community, but is that the best place for us to serve as we look ahead?
Sure.
Or are there different definitions of community that might be industry groups or affinity types or even cultures or other populations that we should be trying to really hone and articulate our expertise toward,
Mm,
and that's where we can best serve a customer segment or niche and do that on a competitive and ongoing basis. And so it may end up through that exercise that your geography is still the best community for you to plant your flag and serve. I would argue, I think in most cases, you're going to find others either to layer on top of that or that you may be even more equipped to serve.
absolutely.